Is it me? No, I'm not going to. This time, I'm not going to have a rant this time. I thought we'd make a bit of a change. I tell you, it's nice to have a bit of light-heartedness occasionally. And my wife, she said to me just now, you know how that kettle's boiled? You know how you say that when it's, you're going to say, you know how that kettle's boiled? Yeah, well, make me a cup of tea then. She said it like that, and I thought to myself, I just said in response, yeah, well, where do you want to start? You know how that kettle's boiled. Well, where do you want to start? Do you want to go back to the power station and then or all the way right back to the beginning of time? Because I can tell you how that kettle's boiled, and I thought it'd be a bit of a laugh if we based it upon how that kettle's boiled, to have a romp through the old brief history of everything. An old Bill Bryson's book. Bloody good book that is, actually. Well worth a read if you haven't read it before. It's very good, but I thought we'd just have a little laugh, a bit of light-heartedness. We don't normally do that. We're normally moaning like hell about something or another. So do you know how that kettle's boiled? Well, we start, 13 3/4 billion years ago, when the old Big Bang. And it's interesting. I wonder what happened. There's a dog going off on one. Who we got out there? We got one of the neighbours having a new kitchen fitted. Some of the old dogs going off on one. The builders, I think. Yes. I wonder what the old. I wonder what happened before what was there before the Big Bang. They don't seem to have an answer to that yet, do they? But be interesting if anybody manages to come up with it. Was it God? There's contentious, eh? But anyway, what was it? 13 3/4 billion years ago, wasn't it? The Big Bang, and then they reckon, at least by then, latest figurings out, at least by 380,000 years after the Big Bang, which is a twinkling of an eye, isn't it? That matter and energy had separated, and it was all hydrogen, wasn't it? A bit of deuterium, I think, and what have you, and then of course gravity kicks in, doesn't it? And there was the old gravity kicked in, and these clouds of matter started to coalesce and make the stars, and then the galaxies, and of course then the old heavy elements have got to come along from somewhere, and now they realise it's from the old supernova, don't they? They are these giant stars. They've got to be, I think, 90 times the size of our sun or something to cause a supernova that produces the heavier elements. Because they have carbon ignition, don't they? A certain size white dwarfs or something end up producing carbon ignition, where you get nuclear fusion. That's right, nuclear fusion occurring to produce carbon, and then you get iron being produced and all the other things in between. And then of course the old supernova explodes, and out it all pops, woof, out into the universe, scattered to the four winds, through the universe. And so the heavier elements were produced in that way, and indeed they still are to this very day, being produced by supernovae all over the universe. And it was one of these clouds of debris, so they reckon, about 4.5 billion years ago, or 4.8 billion years ago, that started to coalesce and produce our solar system. And there we are, 4.8 billion years ago, our solar system started to produce into a what do they call it, a protoplanetary disk, and the sun in the middle of it. And the old Earth came together about 4.5 billion years ago, right? And then of course there was that catastrophic collision just after the Earth had coalesced with I reckon a Mars-sized object that went on and produced our moon, got knocked off of it. The Earth managed to survive, and we got our moon orbiting round, and what with that and the fact that it sent a wobble onto the axis of the Earth, and the moon, and all that came together to produce a planet that they then oh yeah, that's right, then there was some ice ice asteroid bombardment on the Earth to produce our water, and all these things came together to about, what was it, not long after the Earth was produced, 4.3 billion years, something like that. The first life, they reckon, formed. It's not long when you think about it. It's not, in sort of universal time or geological time. It's not long after the planet was born that life started to appear. I find that quite fascinating myself, but yeah, and so on it went then. The old story of all the chemicals coming together and a membrane forming, and and then billions of years that it stayed as single-celled creatures. Yeah, that's the thing people don't understand. These people who don't believe in evolution, what are they on? Bloody creationists. What are they on exactly? But it's billions of years life remained in single cells in the primordial soup, and then of course it accelerated away for various reasons and promoted the expansion of life into multicellular forms, and then we've had the old, as far as our story of the kettle is concerned, of course, the most important time was 360 million years ago, the evolution of life on this planet, and that was the old Carboniferous period, when most of the coal was laid down. And it's funny, I never knew this, but it was during that, most of the coal was laid down in the period between when trees, certainly perhaps not modern trees, but cycads and all that kind of stuff were in existence, yet fungi and bacteria hadn't evolved a lignase enzyme to be able to digest them. So there wasn't that digestion of the dead tree matter, and so it just sank into the bottom of the swamps and what have you, and got covered over by sediment and so on and so forth, and under pressure the old coal was produced, and there we are. We had the coal, and now here we are, scooching a bit more up to date, and we mine old coal out of the ground and send it off to the power station, don't we? And that gets ground up into a fine powder and squirted at high speed into this furnace, produces incredible temperatures, and and we turn water into steam, and then we use the steam to drive the turbines. And that, of course, is where old Faraday's laws of induction come in, don't they? The old Fleming's left-hand rule, isn't it? Where what you've got force, and then the magnetic field, and then the direction of the current going that way, of course. So and so the old turbines turning like that, and you've got your electromagnetic field there, and so then the current is induced in the wire on the turnings, the wires that are turned on the turbine. The old force is induced in that direction, and that's done by the power of steam, and the old electricity that's produced there, the old EMF, is then converted into a step-up transformer using the same laws. Of course, the old transformers use very similar laws. Laws of induction are used there again to step it up to the national grid. They reckon it's, their national grid is defined as anything over 200,000 volts transmission is considered to be the national grid, and of course they up the old voltage and reduce the current to try and reduce the resistivity, and hence the losses across the wires, which of course is where we're going to end up with old resistivity from our original question of how did this kettle boil. And of course then it comes to our step-down transformers and our local substation and along our wires and into the said kettle. And of course it is there that resistivity takes over. The element inside the kettle is made of a substance such that it's got a higher ohms resistance, or resistance measured in ohms, and that means that the electrons find it hard to pass through that material, and so large amounts of electrical energy are required to pass the electricity through that material, and that electrical energy is then dispersed as what they call ohmic or resistive heat. And of course it's that heat that emanates from that element, that acts on the water molecules in the water that's in the kettle, and agitates them to such an extent eventually that they turn from the liquid phase into the gaseous phase, and there you are. Hey presto, there is your boiling kettle. So that was a bit of a laugh, wasn't it? Well, I enjoyed it anyway. I thought it was quite funny when she said to me, you know how that kettle's boiled, make me a cup of tea. I said, well, yeah, I do know how that kettle's boiled, actually. Where do you want to go back to? So that was a bit of a fun, wasn't it? I thought I'd share it with you. It's better than all the constant moaning. It's a nice little romp on it through the history of the universe based upon how a kettle boils. But yeah, bit of fun. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Ta-ra.